Oh, boy, you go to the store these days, there's so many different choices for super glue. And what's annoying to me is when I'm trying to decide what super glue I want to use, I'd like to know what the active ingredients are, and on the back of the package here, there is nothing to tell me what the active ingredient is. Oh, hold on. Actually, right there under the warning section, it says contains cyanocrylate, which is one of the active ingredients in most superglues, I think. I remember, it's been a long time. Years ago, I used to be able to buy a brand of superglue. It was almost like an industrial strength, and it came in a very generic looking bottle. I used to buy it from my electronics supplier, who I bought electronics parts from. Now, you go into the store, and it's all name brand this and name brand that, and all the glory of all the packaging and everything. And now even Loctite's gotten into the game. So I decided to go with this because it was actually cheap. Now this is a gel type super glue, so it's stays and put more than the other types. And to be honest, the main reason I decided to go with the gel is because it was actually cheaper. You hold for at least 10 seconds. For best results, hold for 15 to 30 seconds. And then the full cure is 12 to 24 hours. So I'm going to, now that I've been holding this for about, well, over 15 seconds anyways, should be safe for me to let it go. So now I'm going to set this aside and let it cure for 24 hours. And through the magic of video, it'll be instantaneous. So this little plastic sleeve has an angle to it, or a bevel to it. It's actually got almost well, not almost. It has 3 different angles here. The first of which is not quite an angle. It's almost as if the bottom edge here is a 90 degree. Then we start the first larger angle, and then at the very end there is an additional angle. But I don't really care about this leading edge or this trailing edge. I care about this main body right here, what that angle is. Now, I can't really get a reading on the inside because there's too many things going on in the way. But I've got it on the outside here. If I put this together, okay, and I put this on this little granite block. This is actually a drop indicator base, but I'm just using it as a makeshift surface plate for right now. And I've got my Starrett protractor here. This is a model 359. And what I'm going to do is, I've got some light behind it. I'm going to get down here and bring this up close to it and see if I could see any light from behind. And I do not. So I feel pretty confident that I've got this set right now at that angle. So if this was perfectly vertical and perpendicular to this plane right here, that would be 90 degrees. And if I look at the vernier scale on this, I can actually see that it is at what appears to be 82 degrees, which is 8 degrees away from 90. So what I'm dealing with is I'm dealing with an 8-degree angle. So now that I know that it's an 8-degree angle, what I want to do is I want to transfer that to my compound on the lathe so that I can bore a tapered hole, 8-degree tapered hole in there. Well guys, I think this is about as good as it's going to get for this micrometer, at least in my hands. So this little band is basically just wedged on there. I was going to super glue it in place or Loctite it in place. My concern is that if you ever have to take this apart again, I don't know if it would be a problem to have that. It's kind of weird the way this is put together. So, I don't know. I'm just going to leave it like that. So it doesn't really make this micrometer commercially viable. It's not really something I'd feel comfortable selling to somebody because it's the way it is. The only way to make it 100% again would be to get this part, this replacement part, which I don't even know if it's available any longer. So my thinking now is, because it's kind of a neat direct reading micrometer, 1 to 2 inch, I'll just keep it in my box. As far as you know, how good is it working? Well, it actually seems to be working quite well. I didn't tighten the screw yet, so I just went to loosen this, and it's turning. So I got to tighten that. All right. So what I was saying was that I think this is as far as I can go with this thing. Now, in case you're wondering how I ended up calibrating this, I mean, we'll use calibration in the loosest sense of the term. I just used a 2-inch standard. I put a 2-inch standard in here. That brass part with the Allen set screw can be slid up and down this shaft. So I positioned it so that the line with the 2 is just showing when I have the 2-inch standard in. And I dialed this around to the 0, mark. And it seems pretty crude. And you wouldn't think it would work, but I actually just tried it, and when I zip this all the way down to the 1-inch mark, and I put the 1-inch standard in, it's really close. And if I really wanted to, I could probably fudge it, and there's a hole right here. I think I can actually tweak this whole plastic barrel and turn it just a tiny bit to actually compensate for any tiny differences. Coming up on the 1. So that's like 15 thousandths over right there. And if I had one of those bench micrometer stands, it would make this a lot easier. And by design, this has got like a slip clutch in it, so okay. And I think that's coming out. So, what do you think? Not bad for a noob micrometer repairman, huh? Yep. So, I think we can put this in the completed column. Wouldn't necessarily exactly say it's a 100% win, but hey, you know, I think I put this micrometer up for sale as is for like 15 or 20 bucks, and nobody wanted it, so now it's usable. All right, so hopefully you enjoyed this little series on this Brown Sharpe direct reading micrometer. And if you're not a subscriber, I would appreciate it if you'd consider subscribing. And if you like what you see, hit the like button. And more videos always coming. And you never know what I'm going to get into next. Take care.